Hello, everyone. I wanted to mention something about disruptive technology and non-disruptive technology and what that means. Now, when we look at the S curve, some people would basically say as this leads off and the others coming in, that's a disruptive technology. That basically when you're moving from disk drives to hard drives, that disrupts things. But that's not quite accurate as to really what it means. What they're really talking about is a technology that really will turn something on its head. So many examples in this course of basically going from um, digital media to a digital storage device for your music that allows you to do whatever with it, and that coming into the music industry and then just disrupting that industry. The internet is a disruptive technology that fundamentally has changed how we work and continues to change industry after industry as we use the ability that the internet has to change how we function. That's really what we're talking about. When you talk about an integrated circuit coming in, that's a disruptive technology that disrupted the computer business heavily, and it shifted it heavily. And the internet did the same thing, very disruptive. So when you look at other technologies, for instance, like on the horizon, VR, and you learn in some of the history that we look at, VR has been around for a very long time. They've been working on it and trying to get it to work for a very long time. But will that be disruptive? Will that fundamentally change how we work? My guess is probably not, but there may be something that's implemented with VR that I'm currently not aware of. And so we're constantly, or you should be constantly, kind of on the lookout as you're going through your career, with something that's really going to be disruptive. As a matter of fact, going from PC to mobile, that was a pretty disruptive thing, right? Mobile computing has changed how we work, even from taking it from a notebook to a handheld, a tablet, or your smartphone has been massively disruptive. Now, most of you won't be aware of this because you didn't experience it, but my job as an educator is a lot easier in some ways and a lot harder in some ways because of this smart technology. For instance, I've got the Canvas teacher app on my phone here, and I can answer students' questions immediately. And that is something that most students now expect. And why? Well, because that's the way we work with mobile. That's how it happens with mobile. So it ought to function that way, right? And I love that portion of it. I like to be able to look at my phone and go, oh, I got a message from a student, even though it's 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Hit it, answer the question, send it back. Because part of my reason for working is wanting to help a student get to what they need. And I know how hard it can be on a student to have to wait 24 hours for an answer or even longer. And so that's really, really beneficial, but that really has disrupted the way I work. As a matter of fact, right now I'm doing this video at home because I have a better setup at home to do the video than in my office. And so I'm working at home more than I ever have been, but at the same time, it's made me way more productive. So when we look at the S curve and we see these little disruptions that happen, that is a disruption. But the only way that you would know if a technology is really disruptive is by looking at society and saying, how did it change things, right? And now so much has changed. Amazon, right? There's boxes going everywhere. Uh, it's it's a massive, massive thing. Video streaming that has changed the entertainment industry. Anyway, there's tons of examples, but there is that process that happens between technologies that is a little disruptive, and then there's something that is way more disruptive, and that would be called disruptive technology or disruptive innovation. as opposed to sustained innovation. So last example here, to give you an example of sustained, the integrated circuit, that disrupted things heavily. And basically that technology has continued to be improved upon until now we're getting to the point, right, where we specialize graphic processors, math coprocessors. We're doing all of this, but it's still just sustained innovation. It's doing the same thing with improvements along the way. Quantum computing, right? That has the ability to be very disruptive, but only so far as it becomes much more usable and mobile to everyone. If it's restricted to scientific use, like the old mainframes were, because of how huge they are, because of needing to be cooled to that temperature, then that becomes a problem. Personally, I foresee that quantum computing is going to have a major effect, especially in AI, going to do some incredible things. And I do think they're going to be able to get that temperature down so that you basically could have a computer maybe the size of a refrigerator or a small desk, and then that would have this massive power. Whether or not we need it as humans, I don't know. Like, do we need that on our wrist? I don't know that we need that. That's something that we'll have to see, and depends on the technology that gets built upon that. And that's really, really fundamental to understand, is that these are the building blocks. I'll give you that example of the 6502 processor. That became the building block of so much. And so there's always this building block that everything's being built on. It. Quantum computing has that ability to really fundamentally shift things, and that would not be a sustained innovation. Our processors we use now would be sustained, and disruptive would be the quantum computing. Anyway, fascinating stuff, things that I like to watch and pass on to you guys, because again, I want you to be the technologist, not just a techie. I want you to be out there and then looking and going, look at that, 20 years from now, McBride said something about this quantum computing, and now our company can buy one. And how will that fundamentally shift what we do, just like mobile computing did?